Hello, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you to this third webinar in the series of monthly webinars that we are doing for ONOS members. Thank you so much for taking out the time from your busy schedules. Today's webinar is a little bit different than the ones we did in the last 2 months. The last 2 months webinars was focused on platform trainings, where we wanted you to train on ONOS and also Springer Nature platforms. And thank you so much for sending us such warm, positive comments and such warm feedbacks around those two webinars. It really gives us a lot of motivation to do more and more and to do better. This month, I mean, in the month of May, we thought we will just bring another topic for you, which is about scientific writing and publishing. And I'm really glad that I was able to secure Natalie Jacobs, the executive editor, journals at Springer Nature. She's from the Applied Sciences and Engineering. And she's there with us today to take the entire session on scientific writing and publications and much more. My name is Alpna Sagwal. You all know, I mean, many of you know, I'm sure. Thank you, the ones who are the repeat audience in this third webinar today. I look after account development activities for India and the emerging markets, the nearby countries as well. So very happy to be here. And let me quickly set the agenda for today. We have a lot to cover. You'll have to hear me for the first 20 minutes or so, and I apologize for that in the beginning. We have like the welcome introduction, housekeeping for 5 minutes that I'll do. Then very briefly, I'll take you on the steps on ONOS. And I don't want to do a live demo today because I want the time to be dedicated to scientific writing and publishing. But I will definitely tell you about certain steps and some other tools that you can use. Then we'll give it to Natalie. She'll have a 1 hour, 20 minutes dedicated session on how to structure your manuscript. And she has a lot of points to cover. And she is with Springer Nature for the last 25 years. And she brings in with her a lot of wisdom and knowledge. So I'm sure you all will be benefited from her today, from her talk. Because the session will become very heavy after the presentation. So we'll take a very short 5 minutes break after that before we dive into Q&A, question and answers. So that's the agenda. And then some housekeeping things from our side. So we have kept everybody on mute. I hope you understand because we have many people on the call today. And thank you also to the librarian community in India for promoting this session so well within their institutes. And we all at Springer Nature are grateful for your support, and also for our peer researchers and faculty who are promoting these sessions within your academia and the community. We really appreciate your support, and without your support, we won't be able to conduct such a large scale, a mass scale webinar here. So we have kept everybody on mute, and please type in your questions in the Q&A section. You already have given us some questions in the registration form. We have taken a note of them. Those were passed to Natalie, and she has gone through them. We have made a summary. I'll just talk about that in a while. So we will take the live questions at the end. That's why we have kept half an hour buffered so that we can take as many questions as possible. This session is being recorded. We will be circulating the recording to you soon, maybe like in 1 or 2 days. And we also have some polls in the webinar. I request your full participation and enthusiasm as we've been showing in the past in our webinars, because these polls really give us some insights, the speaker, some insights about what kind of audience is there with us. And as I mentioned, we have kept a 5 minutes break because then it might get too heavy. But please do ensure to come back because we will have a very intense Q&A section after that. And after the webinar ends, this is the last point, but not the least one. We really take feedbacks very seriously at Springer Nature. Please do let us know how you felt about the webinar. It is just a 3-question feedback form. It won't take like a minute of yours. So please do fill it. When you close the browser, at that time, the feedback will pop up. You can answer it. If you're not able to somehow, then tomorrow or day after when you get the recording, there'll be a link to fill the survey as well. So please do that. All right. So as I was mentioning about the questions that have come in advance, so we have made a note of them. There were many questions around research paper writing. There were questions, and these are the questions that you have mentioned at the time of registration. And there were questions around the publication process, about the journal selection, access, plagiarism, ethics, AI, methodology, collaboration. So there are questions around all these topics. The ones which are marked as green will be covered by Natalie in the presentation itself. So I think that should be sorted. And the ones which are not, we will be taking them in the Q&A section. All right, so I would like to start now with the poll, because that's always I want to kickstart the session, and also gives some time for the attendees to join in who are a little late. And I also want to respect the time of those who have joined us on time. So let's do a poll here. And the poll is about where are you in your publishing journey? So it's live here with you. I request all of you to please honor my request and answer this. So are you just starting to explore publishing, or you are still working on your first manuscript, or you have submitted, you have just completed your manuscript, you're waiting for peer review, or maybe you have published a few papers. Lastly, that you are a seasoned author with the multiple publications. So let's see what I get here and what kind of audience we have today. So I'll just give some time, like some seconds more for you all. I can see the responses coming in so fast. Thank you so much for such an engaging audience I have here. And also I can see the reactions coming in. Thank you. Okay, so let me end it now because we have enough responses. And all right, so maybe Natalie, you can also see the results and just keep it maybe with you. When you start your presentation, you can have this thing in your mind that we have 37% who have just started to explore about publishing. 23 are working on their first manuscript. So this will be a very nice session for you. 10% people have submitted, they're waiting for review. 26% have published a few papers. Again, very good. I think it's always good to have attend these kind of webinars once in a while. And then we also have seasoned authors who have multiple publications. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I'm just closing this here, and I hope you're back on the presentation. So let me move ahead. As I mentioned that I will give a very brief about ONOS and the Springer Nature content accessible. I do not intend to really take much time of yours, but since this is exclusively we are doing for ONOS members, and ONOS One Nation One subscription only started in India this year, so it becomes all the more important for us to talk about it. So you all of you are now aware because you've done a lot of awareness activities. And I would say it is not only Springer Nature, now all the publishers are doing a lot of awareness activities around this. So One Nation, One subscription is an initiative by the Government of India. And its aim is wider access, I mean large access of scholarly content to the all the academic and the government institutions in the country. So there are many phases of ONOS. This is the first phase that got implemented this year. And Springer Nature is very, very happy to be part of it, part of this journey to advance discovery and to help our research community in India. If I give you a little bit idea, so we have close to 7,000 government institutions, R&D institution, academic institutions, R&D lab, which are part of this initiative, which are eligible for getting access to 13,000 full text journals from across 30 publishers. So out of which, if I talk about Springer Nature, we have close to 3,000 journals. So you guys get access to all of them. The access model is IP-based. So there are two types of access from ONOS. One is like the usual IP-based, that you are in the campus and you are able to access through IP. So you don't have to really log in using any password, etc. So the simple IP-based that we always do. But then we also have an off-campus, which is provided free by InflibNet Center based in Gandhinagar. So if you have not already established the off-campus, please do that. You have to write a mail to support@ONOS, and they will enable your remote access as well. It's given through like a shibboleth remote access setup. It happens like that. Now, this is a little bit about ONOS. Now, how to access? Very simple 3 steps. So the first step here, institutional registration, is for the nodal officers or the librarians. You all have to go and do the institutional registration on the site. Next comes the role of the user who wants to access the resources, and then is the normal access. Now, everything is written on the website, how you have to do. Please go on to this website, onos.gov.in. You will get a lot of resources there. Even Springer Nature, all the reputed publishers have also posted their platform training guides, their tutorials, all of that over there. There's a good list of FAQs as well, which you all can benefit from. So how to do the institutional registration? The librarian has to go to this website. There is a tab called as Institute Registration. Please open that. It will ask for an AISHE code, which is, you all have it, All India Survey of Higher Education. For R&D labs, I understand you don't have this code yet, but it is a mandatory process for ONOS registrations. Hence, you have to apply for that code using that site, which is given at the bottom of this particular slide. So there is this website, aishe.gov.in. Please apply for your code, and then you can register. Once you've done that, fill in your librarian details, and then once you are registered, you can access as admin of that institute. Once your librarian has done this process, next comes the user part, faculty, student, and researcher. You go to ONOS and you click on user registration. That's a separate tab. And then select your university name, state, fill in your details and submit. So once you do that, your request will go to the nodal officer or the librarian, and they will approve it. And once they approve it, they will see the active users from their institutions on their dashboard. And once this is done, then you can just access. As I mentioned, there are two types of access. One is a static IP-based access, which is when you are in the campus, you should be able to access them. Next is the off-campus, which I mentioned through InfluNet Center in feed. Please write a mail to ONOS and they will activate your remote access. It's given free of cost by the InfluNet Center. Please make use of it. Then there are institutions which do not have an IP. So for them, there's only one way to access the resources, that is the remote access. So the nodal officer has to write a letter and fill a form and send it to the InfluNet Center, who will activate their user and ID, which can be disseminated to your users. So the remote access, the without static IP is only for the colleges who do not have a IP. So for them, the normal IP-based access do not work. It's only the remote access that will work. Now, existing government consortia, so there were many consortia in the country like ESS, DELCON, DBT, DRDO, HELNet, and so all these consortia have been seamlessly transferred to the ONOS site, so you do not need to do anything. You will get access as you were getting. The only difference is now you will get access to a larger pool of resources. So that is all as far as the ONOS registration and all is concerned. For any issues, you have to write to the support ID at ONOS, which is given here. And if there is any problem around Springer Nature content, please do write a mail to us. All right, Springer Nature. Now, this was ONS coming very quickly to Springer Nature. Who are we? All of you, I mean, on the call should know, but I also saw that there are some budding researchers who might not be aware. Springer Nature is a reputed publisher known for its legacy in publishing for like 185 plus years. And but Springer Nature is quite a young brand, We just celebrated our 10th birthday last week on the 6th of May. And why? Because on 6th May 2015, Springer and the Nature, the publishing group came together and formed a giant merger. There was a giant merger in the publishing industry. I should say it was a milestone in the publishing industry where these two giant groups joined hands. And that's how all the imprints and much more than these that you see on the screen, we have now all these to offer to you because of this merger. So we are a 10 years young publisher, very young in technology, IT, AI, all of that, with a legacy of 185 years of publishing. So what a quite nice mix we are. And so you can see from this slide, I will really not go through all these numbers. These are very nice accolades on the feathers on our caps. But these impressive numbers on the right really are a testimony to the impact that we are having on the research community. And thank you for being part of our journey. And we are really happy to support our researchers, authors, students in this journey. We are based in 40 countries. We are over 9,000 employees. And the largest offices are in London, Pune, and New York. And then we have offices in many other countries as well. We operate in 4 divisions, as you can see on the bottom left: research, health, professional, and education. And if I talk about the research portfolio, because that's where the journals and the ebooks, etc., comes into play. So from the research portfolio, we have journals, books, databases, and the research services. So I will not talk about journals for a while now because I will cover them. But talking about books, because we are also known as the largest ebook publisher. We have close to 3 lakh books on our platform, out of which 2 lakhs are English language books. If I really talk about numbers to you in books, we publish approximately 13,000 books a year, which makes it to 44 books per day, new books per day. And we have a very robust team of commissioning editors who are working with the authors, attending conferences day in and day out, looking for a nice content to be uploaded on our platforms, to be published on platforms, which you all can study, read, and build your research on and build your knowledge about. So we are very proud of this, if we are able to do this seamlessly. We have books from Springer, from Palgrave, that's the management area, from A-Press, that's our professional and applied computing books. And these books are available in flexible models. So for this, we have our dedicated sales team who get in touch with the librarians and talk about what kind of models we have. This is not the scope of today's webinar, hence I'll not really spend too much time about, what kind of models, etc. we have. Coming on to databases, these are like curated scientific solutions and databases where we have protocols, we have methods, like how to conduct experiments in a lab. So we have very nice tool, or we can say Springer Nature experiments, which is composed of 3 elements: Springer protocols, nature protocols, and nature methods. We also have something called as Springer materials, which talks about, it's very vast, but if I can talk in a layman language, it's like how a particular material will behave in a particular pressure and temperature and what kind of properties it shows, etc. So you can see all of that with such nice diagrams and such nice descriptions on the Springer materials database. Lastly, and the last leg is very important for us, research services. Now we know today that, and all the research that we've been doing and these kind of webinars where we talk to all of you, we have understood that a researcher of today is really a busy person. And I really say this with real conviction that you don't have only the work of research, writing, and publishing. There's much more that goes in your life, just the writing and publishing part. So we as a responsible publisher have been thinking about it, how we can make your life easier in any journey possible. Hence, we are really investing in this research services leg, and we have come up with, for example, out of here, I can talk about Nature Masterclasses, where a group of nature editors have written some curated content about not only writing, publishing, but also on matters like how to attend an interview, how to prepare for an interview, how to network, how to, how to do the data study for your research methods, etc. So there are like 24 modules in one package, which is now available as part of library subscription. So there are many such things that we have been doing. So this is just a gist of our portfolio. I didn't talk about journals, consciously, because I have this slide. So why I've kept a next slide for journals, because journals is something which is available to you all as part of ONOS. Now, what journals we have? You see here, we have academic journals on nature.com, ADIS journals, BMC journals, Nature Portfolio, Palgrave Macmillan, Scientific American, Springer journals, and Springer Nature journals. So all of these journals we have, making it close to 3,000. And we have some very nice performing journals as well in our portfolio. You all know the Nature brand. It carries its own legacy. So all of those journals are part of our package. And this is about Springer Nature. But now the important part is what is available to ONOS members as a part of the scheme, this initiative. Now, what is accessible to you all? Okay. It is all the Springer Nature journals. So all Springer Nature journals with back files access from 1997 is available to you. Please note all Springer Nature journals, but from 1997 is available to you. Thank you for all the reactions. Yes, it's a very, very big step. And we are proud too that we are able to share all of these important journals, and which you can access, read, build your research on, and then write your own research after. Do your research first and then write your research also. Reading these journals. One thing I always say in my sessions, in my talks, is that reading is really important. Of course, after reading these journals, you get to know the information about your particular topic, your particular research area. But one more thing that you gain is the way of writing these articles. When you read more, you know how this journal is accepting, what is the trend of this journal, what kind of writing this journal is accepting. So that also helps you a lot. Hence, reading is paramount important in a researcher's life. Now, where are these journals accessible? Of course, you can go to ONOS site and you have a search bar there. You can type in the keyword and then see for all the journals yourself. There is a segregation by publishers also. But if you want to go to our site, that's also possible. The Springer journals, Palgrave and Adis, are available on link.springer.com, and the Nature journals are available on nature.com. See, it's not that the Nature journals are not on Springer. So the article level, everything is available on Springer Nature link. But if you want to see the home page of a Nature journal, for that you have to go to the nature.com site. Otherwise, everything is syndicated on Springer Nature link. You type a keyword, you will also get articles from Nature on Springer Nature link as well. That's the latest development that happened in October last year. This is how the platform looks like. Since I said today I will not be taking you live, we have done past 2 sessions about Springer Nature link, which are dedicated sessions on that. So today's the scope is not that, but this is how our platform looks like. Now, this slide I really built. Why? Because after doing these 2 sessions in March and April, there were like common queries which were coming up. So then I just thought I will clear them here in this session so that it caters to those as well. So the first query was like, which kind of institutions are part of it? So as I mentioned, in the first phase, which is started in January 25 till December 2027, only government, the central as well as state, higher education institutions, the central government, R&D labs and institutions are all part of ONOS in the first phase. Now, there was another question which was keep coming, that if an institute does not have an AISHE code, and it is more for the R&D labs, I think the R&D labs do not have this because they were not part of the survey. Please understand that you have to apply for it because this is a mandatory part of the ONOS registration. If you haven't done it till now, please do it because you are losing out on very good quality content because of not doing this step. Third is that I get many mails from people asking, even nature journals are available. Okay, can I get nature medicine? Can I get nature physics? Can I get nature catalysis? Yes, I want to clarify this. All Springer journals and all the nature journals, nature branded, nature review, academic journals, nature partner journals are anyways open access, but all the nature research and the nature review journals are part of it. Nature electronics, nature sustainability, nature physics, nature methods, nature medicine, all of it is part of ONOS. You can access all of them. But please note that Springer Nature articles published before 1997 are not covered. So I get a lot of emails from researchers sending me screenshots of any article published in 1986 and then saying that I'm not able to access it, I'm part of ONOS. Please note, just see the date, the volume issue of that article, which volume it's published in. If it is before 1997, you will not be able to access it because only the access from 1997 is enabled. And the last point is that the books are not covered. I have got so many emails from researchers sending me an ebook chapter link and a screenshot saying that it is not accessible. Please note that the chapters on our platform looks very similar to an article page, but they are again a chapter, not an article. And they're part of a book, not a journal. So please note that the chapters, books are not covered. They are not in the scope of ONOS. It is only limited to journals and articles. If you have more queries, there is this full section of FAQ on this site. I will share all these links on the chat today when Natalie starts speaking. So there is also a contact us page on ONOS site. If you are stuck anywhere in the process, please, there is a contact us page. Also, there's an ID on support@ONOS, which I mentioned a while ago. For remote access setup, there is a separate ID, which is infed@infibnet.ac.in. Please, all the librarians in the call can make note of this ID. If you're stuck in the remote access, please write to this ID. These are about ONOS queries, but if you have queries related to Springer Nature, please send a mail to onlineservice@springernature.com. Else you can write to me at alpana.sagwal@springernature.com and I'll try my best to answer your queries on time. 2 webinars we've done already. These are the topics and titles. These were only dedicated on the platform trainings. Many of you were on the call, I think, where we talked about how to become a smart researcher, Boolean operators, how to generate smart keywords. And these were very well taken by the community, our attendees, and we got very nice feedback. So the link to watch recording is here. I will again post them on the chat, and I'll also share the link to this slide deck so that you have everything with you. So that's all from my side. I think I was on time. And now I am very happy to now invite Natalie. She's joined us from the Netherlands office. She has been working with Springer Nature for the last 25 years, executive publisher responsible for publication of applied sciences, journal portfolio. And as I mentioned, she's in Netherlands. She leads these kind of author workshops in English and Spanish all over the world. Scientific publishing has greatly evolved in the last few years, and Natalie can bring you up to date from her vast experience, and she enjoys engaging with authors and the potential authors. So I can really can't thank enough her. She's such a busy resource we have, and she has been supporting us always to conduct these kind of sessions. And she comes with a wisdom of knowledge, which she can share with you today. So I hope you all make the most of the session. As I said, any questions you have, please feel free to write in the chat. We'll try our best to answer them. So over to you, Natalie, now. The virtual stage is all yours.
Can you share?
Yes.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, but it's not moving.
Not yet.
No, it's not moving. It's not working.
No problem. Maybe you can just try again sharing it.
Stop share.
Yeah.
I would like to mention that we practiced this before the session started and then it worked. So
yeah,
this is Murphy's Law.
That can happen always. Technology never ceases to surprise us.
Let me see.
It's coming up and now you can do the
slide. Now it is working. Now it is working. Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Alpana. I'm really happy to be here with you today. And yeah, as Alpana said, I will first give a presentation, share some slides. We will also have some polls, and then we will have a 5-minute break. And then, of course, there is time to answer any questions that you might have. We might be able to answer questions after the session, and it could also be that we have to answer some of your questions afterwards, or maybe I can send you some extra information through links, but we will see how things go. I have prepared an agenda for today. First, I will introduce myself and I will try to answer the main question of this session, why you should publish and why in English. I am based in the Netherlands and the office in the Netherlands. And of course, for me, it would have been much easier if I could give this session in Dutch. We speak Dutch here. But if I speak in Dutch, you won't understand me. And the same happens when you publish a paper. English is the language of science, and people all around the world want to know what you are doing. So it is best to publish in English, but we will talk a bit in more detail about that later. We will talk about a logical manuscript structure, an efficient publication strategy. We will, of course, talk about research integrity, because this is a topic that is becoming more and more important. We will talk about a successful journal submission, about artificial intelligence, and as I said before, there will be time for questions and answers. As Alpana mentioned, I've been with the company for 25 years. Actually, I got flowers yesterday, and this month is my 25th anniversary. So yeah, I'm really happy. And during all those years, I've seen what one should do and what one should not do when you start publishing or when you are writing a paper. So I hope to be able to share some of my experiences with you. And of course, I will share some real life examples. I'm responsible for an applied sciences journal portfolio, but I would like to mention that this session will be a general session about publishing in general. It will not focus on applied sciences only. And I've included some of my journals here on this slide. Maybe you know them, maybe not. Feel free to have a look at them after the session. So now that we have the first poll, and Alpana, maybe you can help to run the poll. And my question here is, if you have already published with Springer Nature. We saw earlier in the other poll that Alpana did, that 37% is still looking to publish, and only a few of you have already published or are in the process of publishing. So now my question is if you have already published in one of our journals. And here you can choose between yes or no.
Yeah, so I'll just give a couple of more seconds, and then I'll close it and share the results, Natalie.
Sure.
Okay, great. So let me end this. And we have 17% of the audience that we have today, like 60% answered the poll, who have published with us, and 83% have not. Can you see the results too, Natalie? In your
Yes,
Okay,
I
great.
can see them. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So this means, yeah, 70% have published and 83% not. Well, let's see if we can convince you to publish with us. Hold on. Yes. So then, as I said before, one of the main questions of this session, why you should publish. You might have heard about publish or perish. Publish or perish because either you publish or what you are doing is not worth anything. The pressure to publish is really high, not only in India, it's really high worldwide. People need to publish. People are requested to publish a certain amount of papers per year, either to obtain their PhD. In some countries, you have to have published a certain amount of papers to be able to obtain your PhD, or maybe you want to become an associate or a full professor, and then again, you need for this promotion, you again need a certain amount of papers. The pressure is really, really high, and this is where publish or perish comes from. And your research is not complete until it has been published nowadays. And when you publish, you have to make sure, and I would like to emphasize here, new and original results or methods. They should be new and original because people don't want to read what has been published before, what's not new. They really want to know what's new, and they want to see original results or methods. And when you publish, you exchange ideas and you communicate with peers. And here again, I would like to mention that you advance and you don't repeat scientific knowledge and enhance scientific progress. Of course, you demonstrate credibility of results, and it also helps you with grant writing and to obtain research funding. Maybe they see you have to demonstrate that you have published and what you have published, and then you can obtain this grant or research funding. Of course, it gives you recognition and it helps you with career advancement. And as I said before, you might need a certain amount of papers per year to progress in your career. And of course, it gives you personal prestige and satisfaction. You will be proud if you have published in a very famous journal with a famous editor-in-chief in your field. It gives you personal prestige and satisfaction. And then, of course, the other question, why in English? As I mentioned before, English is currently the international language of science, and it fosters international collaborations. It could well be that you have published a paper and that there is someone here in the Netherlands or in the UK or in the US that sees your paper and says, hey, I'm doing something similar. Maybe we can do a project together. Or maybe you published a paper in the proceedings or in a special issue coming from a conference, and people at the conference are seeing your paper. It really fosters international collaborations. They will reach out to you, and of course you can do the same when you see something. Scientists do want to hear from other scientists around the world. They want to know what you are doing, and they are really interested in your work. Of course, it allows you to become an effective science communicator. It could well be that someone who is organizing a conference sees your paper and invites you as one of the speakers, maybe even as a keynote speaker at that conference. And of course, the number of your publications is linked to career advancement and funding success. Maybe, I don't know how it is in India, but I know that there are countries here in Europe where you really need 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 papers before you can even obtain your PhD. So now we are going to talk a bit about a logical manuscript structure. And when you start to write, and when you start structuring your manuscript, bear in mind that you are telling a story. And a story always has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'm going to explain you now the expanded IMRAD model. And this is a general model, and this can be used for about 70–80% of the scientific papers. And that's why I'm explaining it. You have the title, the abstract, and the keywords. And then you have the introduction, the I of IMRAD, the methods, the M, the R, the results, and the discussion, the D, IMRAD. If you remember this abbreviation, you will never go wrong. And then this is followed by the references and the acknowledgements. So IMRAD, the introduction, the methods, the results, and the discussion. When you start writing your paper, you have to bear in mind that your readers have 4 key questions. They would like to know why you did the study. They want to know what you did. They would like to know what you found and how the study advances the field. The why you did the study, you write this in the introduction. What you did in the method section, what you found in the results, and how the study advances the field in the discussion. The right order is also very important. And for maximum clarity and consistency, I would like to recommend you to write your manuscript in the following order. The methods and the results, you write these during the research. So while you are doing your experiment, you write down the methods that you are using and the results that you are obtaining. Even if the results are negative, you can write them down, because other people can learn from it. And be careful when you write down the methods, because other people should be able to reproduce it. So write it down carefully, don't make any mistakes, and write this down during the research, during the experiments that you are doing. Then the introduction and the discussion, you write these after selecting your target journal. And now you might say, why after selecting the target journal? Well, each journal has its own homepage. The journals of the major publishing companies, I would say in this case, they have their own homepage. And on the homepage, you will find the aims and scope, and the aims and scope covers what the journal is about. And make sure to read the aims and scope before you submit. This way you make sure that your paper is really suitable for the journal. And then of course it doesn't get rejected right away. And there's also instructions for authors or author guidelines. And before you start writing the introduction and the discussion and the other parts of your manuscript, make sure to read the instructions for authors. Because it could well be that it says that maybe the introduction or the discussion should not have more than 100 words. And then if you submit an introduction with more than 100 words, your paper is rejected right away. And there could be other things mentioned. Maybe your paper shouldn't have more than 15 pages. And then if you send 20 or 25 pages, your paper will be rejected. And not because of quality, but because of not following the guidelines. And so it is important to read the guidelines or the instructions for authors before you start writing the introduction and the discussion. Then the title and the abstract, you write these last. And I would like to mention, I just told you that I've been with the company for 25 years, so this says something about my age. So I'm a bit old-fashioned and I still print things. And I know I shouldn't print, but I'm old-fashioned. And if I write an article, I write the article, I print it, and then I put the article next to me. And then I start reading my article. And while I read my article, I decide on the final title. Of course, when you start writing, you can work with a draft title. But once you have written your whole paper, then you decide on the final title. You write it last, and this way you make sure that your title is really appropriate for the paper. Same with the abstract. You have the paper, You start reading it, and while you read your paper, you start writing your abstract. And this way you make sure that everything that is in the paper is also mentioned in the abstract. Because if you start writing the abstract first, it could well be that in the end you mention something in the abstract that is not mentioned in the paper. And by doing it this way, you make sure that everything that is in the paper is also covered in the abstract. Now, as I said, I'm old-fashioned. Maybe you are more modern and you're working with 2 screens. That's also an option, of course. And then what you can do is that you write your paper and you put it on one screen, and on the other screen you start writing your title and your abstract, and then you don't have to print anything. The titles are really important because the title is the first thing that people see. People don't go to a journal homepage anymore to find articles. They go to Google and they start searching with keywords. And then they see a title of a paper. And with the title, you convince someone to read your whole article or to download even the whole article. So your title should be attractive. And you want to get your reader's attention with the title. So the title should include what's important, keywords for indexing. The words in the title automatically become keywords, and it should be concise. The shorter, the better. If possible, less than 20 words. And I would say don't use commas. Because if you start using commas in a title, the title becomes too long. And if it becomes too long, so the reader who finds your title stops reading. So what's important? Keywords for indexing and concise. It should be concise. The shorter, the better. And if possible, less than 20 words. Titles should avoid questions. People are not looking for questions. People are looking for answers. So try to avoid questions on the title. Don't describe methodologies in a title. And don't use abbreviations, because it could well be that an abbreviation in your field means something completely different in another field. So abbreviations can be confusing. So I would really like to recommend you to avoid abbreviations as well. So no questions, no methodologies, and no abbreviations. Your title should be a concise summary of what's most important. So it really helps. I already mentioned the title, the shorter the better. But effective writing really improves readability. And you want to make it as easy for the reader to read your manuscript. So I would really like to recommend you to use short sentences. Limit your sentence to 10, 15 words and include one idea per sentence. Don't make it too long, because otherwise people won't read it. And use active voice, simple, direct, and easier to read again. It promotes simple, straightforward writing. As such, most scientific journals encourage the use of the active voice over the passive voice. I have included an example here. In the active voice, for example, you would say vitamin A increases the risk of hair loss. And in the passive voice, you would say the risk of hair loss is increased by vitamin A. As you can see, the passive voice is also a bit longer. The active voice is short and to the point. I hope you can see the difference. And I hope this is, of course, useful for you. I've included this slide because I always get a lot of questions during the webinars, what to use, active or passive voice. So try to make it active, and only if the journal indicates otherwise, then use the passive voice. But with the active voice, you really make it easier for the reader to read your paper. So short sentences, 10 to 15 words, one idea per sentence, and active voice. We will now talk a bit about an efficient publication strategy, because everybody has his own publication goals and his own reasons to publish. But everybody wants to publish quickly and have impact in the field. I get a lot of questions every day from people. How long does the peer review process take? How long does it take before I get an answer? How long will it take after revision? And how long will it take after acceptance before my paper is published online? I would like to mention that for Springer Nature, this information can be found on the website of the journal. But people think it's easier to contact us, and of course, I will be happy to help you and happy to answer you. But all this information is normally mentioned on the website of the journal because each journal has its own website. But as I said, people want to publish quickly and want to have impact in the field, and therefore they want to choose the most appropriate journal because you want to choose the most appropriate journal because you want to communicate your studies' relevance. So now there will be another poll before we continue. And I would like to know from you, what do you look for when choosing a journal? Do you look at the speed of publication? Do you look at detailed and informative peer review? Do you look at the readership and the reputation of the journal, or do you look at the impact factor? Thank you, Alpana, for putting the poll up.
Yeah, certainly.
So is it speed of publication, detailed and informative peer review, readership and reputation of the journal, or the impact factor?
Okay, so I will close it because we have enough responses. Let me just share. Okay, so here are the results, Natalie. 33% say speed of publication. The maximum votes are for impact factor.
Yeah, I was expecting that.
Yeah, followed by the reputation and the readership of the journal, and then the speed, and then the detailed and informative peer review. Very close.
Yeah. I get a lot of questions, as I already said, about speed, about the speed of publication, how long the review process takes, and how long it takes before a paper is published online. And this, of course, is because everybody has its own needs, because maybe they have to publish 2-3 papers per year, and then they need to know the speed of the review process. But I also get, and especially now in May, June, I get a lot of emails regarding the impact factor. Did the impact factors come out? Did it go up? Did it go down? So yeah, what I'm seeing here is not surprising. And most of the people look at the impact factor, and this is also something that I will. Is this the journal with the highest impact factor? I was asking here, and I would like to mention that it's not necessarily the thing that you have to look at. Other items, as I just mentioned in the poll, are also important. And I would like to explain you why. When you choose the most appropriate journal, you want to choose the journal that will best reach your target audience to maximize your impact in the field and not the impact of the journal. And I will give you an example now to explain you why you can also look at other things than just the impact factor. Because when you are looking at impact factors, there are a few points that you should consider. Disciplines are highly discipline specific. They are larger in more populated disciplines. They are short term. It really depends on how hot the topic is, and they are prone to manipulation. I have also included here the calculation on how to calculate the impact factor. And in this case, I've included the calculation for the impact factor of 2023. And the impact factor of 2023 was released last year. And for 2024, it will be released next month. And yeah, people get very nervous, but I would like to explain you again that there is more that you can look at. So if you want to calculate an impact factor, I would like to mention that there are two impact factors. There's a 2-year impact factor and there is a 5-year impact factor. Most people and most universities, however, look at the 2-year impact factor. So to calculate the impact factor of 2023, you take the number of citations in 2023 to articles published in 2021 and 2022. And you divide this by the number of papers published in 2021 and 2022. And what you get is the impact factor of 2023. And you do the same with the 5-year impact factor, but then for 5 years instead of for 2 years. But as I said, most people still look at the 2-year impact factor. And now I would like to give you an example where I would like to show you that a lower impact factor doesn't always mean bad quality. Let's assume that we have a journal, and this journal publishes 4 issues per year. And these 4 issues, just to give an example, consist of 10 papers each. So we publish 40 papers per year. This journal is very famous. It has a very high rejection rate, and a lot of papers are rejected. The editor-in-chief is a Nobel Prize winner, and the editorial board members are also very famous. Now the journal is receiving fantastic papers. There's no reason to reject these papers. So the journal is accepting more papers. But we have this 4 issues per year that consist of 10 papers per issue, 40 papers per year. So now we can do 2 things. We can say we accept more papers, but we keep the budget the same. But yeah, you know that I've been contacted by a lot of people who want to know how long the review process takes and how long it takes after acceptance to get published online. So yeah, people will not be happy and they might go to another journal if we don't increase the budget. So we decide to increase the budget. And now, instead of publishing 4 issues per year with 10 papers each, we decide to publish 6 issues per year with 10 papers each. So now, instead of publishing 40 papers per year, we will publish 60 papers per year. Now have a look at the impact factor calculation. What do you think will happen? You take the number of citations in 2023 in this case to articles published in the 2 previous years, and you divide them by the number of papers published in these 2 years. So what happens? Well, in 80–90% of the cases, the impact factor goes down. And because we published 20 papers more than in previous years. So in this case, I would really like to explain to you, the impact factor didn't go down because of bad quality papers. It went down because we published more. So if you see that an impact factor of a journal that you are considering for your paper has gone down, have a look at the journal. Did it publish more in the last couple of years? If so, there is nothing to worry about. It's just because the journal published more papers, and normally the second year the impact factor goes up again. So there is a reason for which this impact factor went down, and it's not because of bad quality. So have a look at the journal if you see that an impact factor goes down. When you choose the most appropriate journal for your paper, you have to ask yourself where the findings are relevant. Is it worldwide? Then you can choose an international journal to reach a worldwide audience. Or is it locally? Then you can choose a regional journal to reach a local audience. Maybe you are doing research on a plant that only grows in Chennai. And that plant is only growing in Chennai, nowhere else in India and nowhere else in the world. But you are doing research about it. But then what you can do is choose a local journal. Because nobody else will know about the plant. So then you can choose a local journal. But if you are doing research on roses or on tulips, that we have a lot here in the Netherlands, and then of course you can choose to publish in an international journal, because these flowers grow in other countries as well. You also have to ask yourself the question, for whom are the findings relevant? Is it for your field only? Then you can choose a specialized journal to reach readers in your field. And here, for example, I have chosen a journal that is only focusing on glass. I could have chosen for a journal on materials, which is broad, but I'm only focusing on glass, and I really want people to focus on it in my field only. So then I choose a specialized journal that is only focusing on glass. But it could also be that what you are writing is interesting for your and other field. Maybe it's interdisciplinary research. And then you can choose a broad focus journal to reach readers across disciplines. And for example, here I have included Discover Applied Sciences that covers a lot of disciplines. You can also ask yourself the question how much accessibility you need. And you can choose for a subscription journal. And subscription journals are now hybrid. Only academics normally with access to the journal can read your article if it's not published with OA. We call subscription journals hybrid now, and most of the subscription journals are hybrid, let's say 90% of them. And we call them hybrid because in subscription journals where you could in the past only publish in a traditional way, not paying anything, you now have the option to publish in the traditional way, not paying anything, or with open access. So it could well be that 40% of the articles in a subscription journal is open access and 60% is still in the traditional way. And if you then don't have a subscription, you are able to read the open access articles, but you are not able to read the articles that were not published with open access. So this is what a hybrid journals really means. So you can choose for a subscription journal, where you have the choice to publish with open access or not, but you can also choose for a fully open access journal. And a fully open access journal research is available to everyone worldwide. Everybody can access the journal, even a 7-year-old child. Question is if the 7-year-old child is able to understand what's published in the journal, but the child has access. But I would like to warn you, because not all open access journals are good. And I would like to explain to you how to identify a trustworthy journal. Look for a reputable publisher like Springer Nature, Elsevier, Wiley, other reputable publishers. Look at the editorial board of the journal that you are considering. Is it international and are the names familiar to you? And if you are new to publishing, ask your supervisor, ask your colleagues, ask your librarian. Are the names familiar? Are the names known in the field? If not, you should not publish in the journal. Is the journal indexed? Is it indexed by Scopus, by Web of Science? But here I would like to mention that new journals are not indexed yet. So for new journals, if a journal is not older than 3-4 years old, then I would like to mention that you shouldn't look at indexing, because then the journal isn't indexed yet. It takes at least 2-3 years before a journal is indexed, as you could see in the calculation of the impact factor. Then with authors, look at authors. Who has published so far in the journal? Do you recognize them? Are their names familiar to you? And again, if you are new to publishing, ask your supervisor, ask your colleagues, ask your librarian. Are the names of the authors known in the fields that you want to publish in? If not, don't publish in the journal. And the fees. Fees are only paid after acceptance. If they ask you for the fees, the APC, the article processing charge, when you submit your manuscript, you should not submit your manuscript, because you will lose your article and you will lose the money. And that, of course, is a pity. Fees are normally only paid after acceptance. There is a website, and this website is free of charge. It's called Think, Check, Submit, and they have more questions like the ones that I just showed you. And they ask you, for example, do you of your colleagues know the journal? Have you read any articles in the journal before? Is it easy to discover the latest papers in the journal? Or is the publisher name clearly displayed on the journal website? And can you contact the publisher by telephone, email, and post? And only if you can answer all the questions that are mentioned on this website with yes, you should submit your article to the journal. If there is one question, except then for the new journal and the indexing services, if there is one journal where the answer is no, you should not submit your paper to the journal. Think, check, submit.org. We also, at Springer Nature, we have the Springer Journal Finder. And with the Springer Journal Finder, you can find the most suitable journal for your research. I've included the link here, but as Alpana said, there will be a recording available, so you can look at the slides afterwards as well. With the Journal Finder, you can find the most suitable journal for your research if you are new to publishing and if you want to see which journals could be suitable for your research. The Journal Finder looks at, for example, your abstract. You enter keywords, you enter your abstract, and then the tool, the Springer Journal Finder, will find the most suitable journal for your research. It could well be that it finds one journal and maybe it finds 3 journals. But yeah, we launched it. We had an other tool before, and then we worked on the tool and we relaunched it. I think 6-7 months ago, and people are really, really happy with this tool. So I hope you find this useful as well. And now we will have another poll. Because, yeah, I would like to give you some hints and tips, of course. And I would like to know which of the following provides a unique identifier to the authors in the research world. You can only choose one thing. Is it the DOI, the Digital Object Identifier? Is it the ORCID ID? Is it your passport? Or is it your resident identity card? What do you think? You have 4 choices, but you can only choose one.
Right, so I'm closing this poll, and we have quite an intelligent audience here, Natalie. So here are the results.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's the ORCID, indeed.
Yeah.
It's the ORCID, and I will talk about it a bit now. The DOI, the Digital Object Identifier, is the number that your manuscript has. So when you want to make reference to a published paper, the paper that has been published online, this is called the DOI, the Digital Object Identifier. An online paper has a certain number, and that's the DOI, Digital Object Identifier. But it is the ORCID, not your passport, nor your identity, or resident identity card. There's another poll now. Do you have an ORCID? And here you can only answer with yes or no. Do you have an ORCID? And I will, after the poll, I will explain what the ORCID is.
All right, so here I have, and I'm closing this poll, Natalie. So we have an audience with 56% having an ORCID ID, but 44% still do not.
Okay, 45% doesn't have an ORCID yet. Thank you, Alpana, for helping me with the poll.
Yeah.
So what is the ORCID? The ORCID is the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. And if you don't have it yet, I would really like to recommend you to request it. I've included the link where you can register for your own digital identifier. It's really easy. You register, you add your info, and then you can use your ORCID ID. I don't know how it is in India, but I will give you an example for Spain or South America. In Spain, for example, and South America, people have two last names. And people are sometimes not really consistent. They publish sometimes with the two last names. Sometimes they use the first last name and the first letter of the second last name. Sometimes they use the first letter of the first last name and the full second last name. And this makes it easier for both for them and for the university to see all their contributions because they were not consistent as an author with the use of their last names. So now with the ORCID, all their publications are together. People can recognize all the publications of these persons, even if they are not consistent and not using, either both last names or one last name. It also helps, for example, with women like me here in the Netherlands. Again, I said I'm old-fashioned. My name is Natalie Jacobs, and Jacobs is not my last name. Jacobs is the last name of my husband. I would say that nowadays, a lot of women don't get the last name of their husband anymore. But when I got married, I was proud to wear my husband's last name. That was normal back then. Times have changed, but I would like to give it as an example because, for example, I could have published with my own last name before I got married. And then I would have continued with my publications with my husband's last name. And then, of course, both the university and people wouldn't recognize me because they didn't know me with my husband's last name. And here again, with the ORCID, both the university and people would see that it is me, that it's really me, and that I changed my last name because I got married. There are a lot of journals out there now where you can even submit with your ORCID. When you submit a paper, it's important that you make sure that there are no spelling mistakes in the name. And I can tell you that there's a lot of people that still make mistakes when they submit in their name. They, for example, my name is written with TH, Natalie, and there's a lot of people with the same name that forget the H or forget the last E. And it's really true. But if they submit with an ORCID, they make sure there are no spelling mistakes. So this is already something that helps as well. So I included the link, orchid.org, and you can register and you can obtain your own digital identifier. And if you don't have it yet, I would really recommend you to obtain it. So once you have found the most appropriate journal and you have logically organized your manuscript, you are ready to submit. So now we will talk about successful journal submissions. When you submit your paper to a journal, bear in mind that journal editors are really busy. Most of them are not full-time journal editors. They are full-time professors, department heads, deans, and they're only journal editors when they have time. So you are competing with many other researchers for the journal's editor's limited time. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them when you submit your paper. First impressions are important. And here I've included an example of two restaurants. Which one would you go to? The first impression is what counts, and this also counts for your paper. So it is always good, and for some journals it's even mandatory to include a cover letter. And a cover letter normally has more or less one page. So what could you include in the cover letter? You can introduce your manuscript, the manuscript title, and the article type. And here I would like to refer again to the instructions for authors, because in the instructions for authors of the journal where you are submitting your article, in the instructions for authors, you will find all the article types that the journal is covering. So make sure that the journal that you are considering covers your article type, because if not, the paper will be rejected right away. And that would be a pity, because then again, it's not about quality. It's not about your manuscript. It's about the wrong article type. And so make sure to read the instructions for authors or the guidelines for authors. You explain why you think the study is important. You give a brief background and you include the research problem and the aims. You include what you found, the study design, and 1 or 2 key findings. And you explain why you think what you wrote is suitable for the journal. And when you explain this, you include the conclusion and the interest to the readership. And with this, you demonstrate that you have read the aims and scope. And as I mentioned before, the aims and scope can also be found on the homepage of the journal. And because in the aims and scope, you really see what the journal is covering. And for example, if you have written something about materials, and the journal, a journal that you are considering, and let's assume that you have written something about wood, and the journal that you are considering is only covering, let's say, concrete. Then, of course, if you submit something about wood, your paper is rejected right away. And so make sure to read the aims and scope and to make sure that what you are writing is really covered by the journal. And this way you avoid disappointments. You can also include additional information. You can include or exclude reviewers. And you might say exclude reviewers. Yeah, it could well be that you had a problem with someone maybe a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and you don't want this person to review your manuscript. You can mention this when you submit your paper, and then the handling editors will take this into account. Including editors or reviewers doesn't mean that the paper will be reviewed by the paper that you have included. Some people, some journals don't accept this because there could be a conflict of interest, and some journals do allow it. That's why I mentioned it here. And then last but not least, publication ethics. And now we will talk a bit about publication ethics, because it's really important that you mention that you followed publication ethics, that you didn't do anything unethical, and maybe you're not aware of it, that you did do something unethical. And that's why I want to talk about it a bit now. Before I continue, if you don't mind, I will close the window here because I'm at the office and there is some background noise. People are outside. It's lunchtime here in the Netherlands. And I don't want you to be disturbed with the people outside. So I will close the window and then we will continue. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Natalie comes, just wanting to tell you that I've been posting some messages on the chat. And whenever you get time, just copy them. They're all the links to the to something which Natalie was mentioning, and also what I mentioned in the beginning about recordings, links to the platforms, etc. So everything is on the chat now, and it will be there, so you can copy it. Yeah, Natalie, you may continue now.
Thank you. Thank you. Apologies, but yeah, the background noise was disturbing. Okay, so in your cover letter, do mention the publication ethics. Make sure that your research is original and unpublished. As I said before, people, first of all, don't want to read what has been published before. And secondly, it is not allowed to publish things twice. And so make sure your research is original and unpublished. If you want to reuse something that was published before, and if you want to use something maybe published by you or published by someone else, this can be done. If it was published without open access, you can ask for permission. And then if you obtain the permission, you can use something what has been published before. This permission can be obtained very easily, and I will discuss this in one of my following slides. It only takes 2 minutes. In 90% of the cases, the permission is granted for free, and they even will explain you how to refer to the previous publication. Sometimes when we ask people if they asked for permission to reuse something, they say, yeah, I asked the author for permission. But you should not ask the author for permission. You should ask the publishing company for permission, because if something was published some years ago without open access, the author, or you maybe in this case, gave the copyright of the article to the publishing company. So always ask the publishing company and not the author for permission. And this way you make sure you really get permission and you can use what has been published before. But ask permission if the content was published without open access, and if it was published with open access, refer to the previous article. If something was published with open access, you don't have to ask for permission. Then, the research should not have been submitted to other journals at the same time. And we know the pressure is high. We know, publish or perish. We know that there is a lot of pressure, but it's not allowed to submit a paper to more than one journal at the same time. We saw that people were submitting to more than one journal at the same time. And now all the major publishing companies like Springer Nature have specialized teams. We have specialized software that will detect, first of all, if the research has not been published before. So if it's original and unpublished, and we will see the overlap percentage. And we have a software now that checks if papers have been submitted to other journals. And if this is the case, I, for example, as publishing editor of my journals, but also my colleagues for their journals, we get an email in which we are told if a paper was submitted to more than one journal at the same time. And what happens in this case is that the paper is rejected for all journals where it was submitted. I would like to mention that sometimes we get an email where a paper is submitted to 2 journals at the same time, sometimes 4 journals, sometimes 12. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a paper that was submitted to 17 journals at the same time. This makes me cry, really. I understand the pressure is high, but yeah, as I said, I've been working for 25 years as a publisher for the company, and my job has changed so much. Sometimes I feel I'm becoming a police inspector, and I don't want to be a police inspector. I just want to work with authors, with editors. I want to see papers, but I don't want to see papers submitted to more than one journal at the same time. And when I saw 12 and 17 journals at the same time, I was really about to cry. Again, all these papers are then rejected for all journals. Of course, we can only check this for our own journals. And sometimes it happens that people have submitted to, for example, an Elsevier journal and a Springer journal. But sometimes we also find out here because then it could well be that it's sent to the same reviewer. And the reviewers are specialized in certain topics. And if you have submitted something on a certain topic on which only a few people are specialized, it could well be that the paper submitted to the Elsevier journal and the Springer journal is sent to the same reviewer. What happens then is that the reviewer sees this and then he says, hey, I've seen this paper before. Let me look. Oh, yeah. And then what he does is that he contacts us and he contacts Elsevier, and here again, the paper is rejected right away. If we find out after publication, the paper is retracted, and retracted means that people won't have access to it online anymore, and a retraction note is published. And the retraction note explains the reason of the rejection. Then all authors should agree on the paper and the journal. If there is one paper that doesn't agree about the final paper or about the journal where you are submitting, the paper cannot be submitted. There should be no conflicts of interest. Nowadays, this should be declared that there are no conflicts of interest. The source of funding should be mentioned. And we are more and more asking for authorship contributions. There's a lot of people that contact us after acceptance of a paper, and then all of a sudden they want to add another author. And we always ask for an explanation because we think that you know who contributed to a paper when you submitted your paper. So if we are contacted after acceptance and people want to add an author, we ask for authorship contributions. And if there is no clear reason for which the other author should be added, we don't accept this. In 99% of the cases, this is not accepted. I would also like to mention, maybe you have a manuscript and you're not really sure about the English, and you asked someone to check the English, to improve the English of your manuscript. Sometimes people give this also as a reason to add someone as an author. Here again, we don't add this person as an author because this person checked the English but didn't really contribute to the manuscript itself. So what can be done in this case is that the person who improved the English of the manuscript is thanked in the acknowledgement section. And this is where this person can be thanked, but not he or she should not be added as an author. So yeah, publication ethics are really important. And as I mentioned before, if something has been published without open access, you have to ask for permission. You have to ask the publishing company for permission because the copyright was given to the publishing company. I have put an example here from the International Journal of Material Forming, and we want to use part of this manuscript again. There is a nice table in this manuscript that we want to use again. So we go to the paper itself, and again, it can be published by me or by you or by someone else. If you want to use something again, what has been published either by you or by someone else, you have to ask for permission, even if it was published by you without open access, because you gave the copyright to the publishing company. So you go to the article then, and then on the right of the article, you see this column. And you see here with where you see the red arrow, you see rights and permissions. Well, you click there, and then you immediately go to RightsLink. And RightsLink is an external company that manages our rights, so to say. So then you already see the title of the manuscript. You see the journal. You see who were the authors, who was the publisher, and when it was published. And you also see the copyright holder. And here you can see that the copyright holder is Springer Verlag France, part of Springer Nature, and it was published in 2020. And then you can choose what you want. And then you make a selection and you submit it. And that's it. You don't even have to write anything yourself. So you go to the paper itself, you click on rights and permissions, then you get this questionnaire and you choose what you want. And normally within 24 to 48 hours, you get an answer. So it's really easy. I've included 2 pages, one from springer.com and one from nature.com, where you can find more on publishing ethics. You can find topics like ethical responsibilities of authors, informed consent. And for example, if you did an experiment that involved animals or people, you have to ask them for permission to include them. Otherwise, you cannot include them in your article. So that's informed consent. There's also information about predatory journals and references. And of course, we have interactive courses. And these courses are for free. And I've included the link here, and I've also included the QR code. There's this course, for example. This course takes only 45 minutes. It's a short course, but really helpful. And as I said, it's free. And we have one from the Nature Masterclasses as well. This one is a bit longer. It's 8 hours of learning, and it's 10 40-minute lessons. And it consists of 3 modules with even a course certificate. So if you want to know more about research integrity, if you want to know what is allowed, what's not allowed, you can do these courses, and yeah, they are free. So once you have convinced the journal editor that the manuscript is suitable, the peer review process starts. And I would like to mention that the peer review process is a positive process. It is really positive. A lot of people are afraid because they say, oh, they will criticize my manuscript. Don't see it as criticism. People are only trying to help you. They are trying to help to improve your manuscript. They are trying to help you to get your manuscript published. It's really positive. Don't see it as criticism. Experts give advice on how to improve your study and your manuscript. And of course, the peer review process ensures that only relevant studies are published. And of course, it helps to advance the field. Of course, when your manuscript is peer reviewed, you can write response letters. This, of course, is allowed, and it's even good. But make sure to clearly discuss all of your revisions, because the most common mistake is that you only state that revisions have been done and not what the revisions were. And we all know, I mentioned it before, the editors-in-chief are not full-time editors-in-chief. They are deans, head of departments, full professors. They are busy. And we want to make it as easy as possible for them to review your manuscript. Make revisions easy to review. Briefly state what was revised. Always refer to page and line numbers. And in the manuscript itself, for example, highlight the revised text. And this way you really make it easy for the editor-in-chief to see what was done. So what are journal editors looking for? They want to know if you agree or disagree with the reviewer comments. And if you disagree, why? Support disagreement with evidence, because otherwise, of course, yeah, you can say, I don't agree, but why? Why? Explain why you don't agree. It's fine that you don't agree, but support disagreement with evidence. They want to know what revisions were done, state new experiments, and how you revise the text and the figures, and explain where revisions can be found. Include page and line numbers and update figure numbers if they changed. It could well be that you updated some figures and the numbers also have been updated. Update them and mention this. We have editorial policies, and be familiar with the editor's expectations. I've included the link to our editorial policies, and there you can find information on authorship principles, competing interests, ethical responsibilities of authors, citations, confidentiality, preprint sharing. And preprint sharing is another question that I get a lot. People are not always sure if they can submit to a preprint server before they submit to a journal. And yes, you can, and we even encourage this. But you have to mention this when you submit your paper, because we have this software that detects overlap, and if it's with a preprint server, we want to know about it. You will find information about corrections, retractions, appeals, complaints, and of course, predatory journals. We also have an editorial policy on AI, because this is becoming an important topic, and developments are going really, really fast. We want you to use AI responsibly. We don't attribute authorship to AI, and we don't allow the inclusion of generative AI images in our publications. And we also ask peer reviewers not to upload manuscripts into generative AI tools. And we want people to review the manuscripts and not a tool. So please do have a look at the editorial policies when you submit to one of our journals. Make sure you become familiar with them, and of course also with our AI policies. I already mentioned some of courses that we have on publishing ethics, but we also have an author academy where we have videos, tutorials, courses, also with certificates, how to write a manuscript, the peer review process. The peer review process will be discussed in detail. And of course, this will definitely be helpful for you when you submit a paper to a journal. I've included the links. The courses, tutorials are all for free. Have a look at them. Feel free to explore. As I mentioned, we have a policy on AI authorship, generative AI images, and AI use by peer reviewers. And I've copied our policies on AI on these slides so that you can always look them up without going to the website itself. For now, I would like to thank you for listening to me. I hope to have explained things in detail. We can organize other workshops where we go more in depth in maybe the review process or in the structure of an article. I really hope you found it useful. I've included my contact details here. We have time. We will have a break now. And after this break, we will have time for questions. But yeah, if you have to leave and you have a question, feel free to contact me anytime. If I'm not traveling, I will always try to answer you as soon as possible. And if you have a question tomorrow, next week, next year, or in 5 years' time, you can always contact us. We are here to help you with your publications. And yeah, we're always happy to help you. And as I said, I'm publishing in engineering and applied sciences. But if you are publishing in another discipline, I will be happy to put you in touch with any of my colleagues who are covering that discipline. And also we are covering journals here. But if you have any questions about book publishing, I will also be happy to put you in touch with any of my colleagues who are covering books. Last but not least, I have included some social media accounts that where you can follow us. We have a group on LinkedIn that you can join if you want to. You can join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter or now X. Feel free. And yeah, again, thank you for listening to me. And I hope you found it useful. Alpana, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. I mean, I cannot thank you enough. And all the positive comments that I've been getting on the questions. In addition to questions, there are a lot of positive feedback coming from the attendees. Thank you. And all the reactions also prove it. I am so glad that this session was worth it. All the attendees are liking it. And now Natalie, you can stop sharing your screen. I've shared your ID with them. And now we will break for 5 minutes and we join back at 4:40 India time, which will be, Natalie, at your end, I guess, 1:05 or
yeah, it's 1 o'clock here now.
yeah, so 1:05 at your time, CET, and India time 4:40 around this we will be joining back. And then we'll deep dive into all the questions that you've been asking. We have enough time left for questions, and I think we'll be able to cover them. Thank you. Natalie, you can also take a short break for water and all.
Okay, and you want me to stop sharing
Yeah, you
now?
can stop sharing, and then meanwhile, I'll
Okay.
just display the LinkedIn handles, etc. on the slides.
Thank you.
All right, I think Natalie is here.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you all. Let's just move ahead with the Q&A section. And a couple of questions that we had received I mean, let's just quickly take Natalie questions from here, and then we have very good questions live also. And at the end, we will ask people to unmute who have raised their hands. So there are three legs to this Q&A section. All right. So one question is how to write footnotes in a research paper before publishing, which you're seeing on the screen also, Natalie, here.
About the footnotes, please follow the guidelines in the instructions for authors. As I said before, each journal has its own homepage, and there are either guidelines for authors or instructions for authors. This depends on the publishing company, how it's called, and you will find there instructions how to write the footnotes, and the instructions can be different from discipline to discipline and from journal to journal. So please do read the instructions for authors. I cannot tell you how to write them, but follow the instructions in the instructions for authors. And there are also tools that you can use. EndNote is one of them, and there are other tools that are also mentioned in the instructions for authors that you can use.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. And then there's a question about review articles. So to tell the audience, we also do some sessions about review articles, which are shorter than these ones. But maybe here quickly, Natalie can talk a little bit about a review article. Also, difference between a review article and a book chapter, Natalie.
Well, first of all, the difference between a review paper and a book chapter. First of all, a paper, of course, is always published in a journal and a book chapter in a book. And for some people in some countries, book chapters don't even count as publication. In some countries, only journal papers are counted as publication. So that is the first difference. And then a review paper, a book chapter is not always a review. A book chapter can also be a chapter in a proceedings, which is a paper from a conference. A book chapter can be a chapter in a textbook. So this would be a chapter that explains how you can do something. It explains something for a class. So a book chapter isn't always a review. And then a review paper always covers other publications. And with a review paper, you write a review on a certain topic in which you also cover papers that have been published before. You refer to these papers. How to write a good review article? Well, first of all, I would like to say, as Alpana said, we have other workshops where we explain this in detail. And if you write, make sure first of all that the review article is covered in the journal that you are sending your article to, because not all journals cover review articles. And sometimes review articles are only by invitation. So someone who has been in the field for maybe 20, 30 years, this person is then invited to write a review article. And I would like, maybe you can take this into account. If you write a review article, when you start publishing, I wouldn't start with a review article. Maybe with your supervisor, or maybe with a person who has been in the field for a longer time. But once you have been in the field for some time, then you are the right person to write a review article.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. These points you all covered in this thing. And yeah, there was this question about AI. Would AI cover automation in writing formats of submissions, specifically Word, LaTeX, etc.?
You can use AI, for example, to improve a bit the language. But do mention this when you submit your paper, but we don't want you to use AI to write the whole paper. We have software that detects this now. And we implemented this software because we clearly saw you can easily recognize papers written by AI. And we saw that we were getting papers that were written by AI, and we want papers that are written by authors. So if you use AI to improve the language, for example, do mention it in your cover letter, but don't use it to write a whole manuscript because we really recognize it and we have a software now to detect it.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, so in this section, so there were questions around the data and methodology. You did cover about the method section, but then there's a question about how to interpret data for research articles, how to relate the quantitative results with the vast literature, and how to communicate quantitative details in the research article.
I would like to mention, I have some slides on this. And what I will do, Alpana, I think that is much easier because
Okay.
then people can see it in one go. After this session, I will add these slides to this presentation, and then you can share the PDF.
Okay, we'll do
Yeah,
that.
I will write it down.
Yeah. Okay. So I intend to share, I mean, your deck and my deck with the links plus recording via Zoom tomorrow, because I'll embed the URL in the Zoom only. So maybe if you send it whenever you have time today in the evening, your
Yeah,
evening.
I will.
So it'll be nice. Okay, and then we have some questions around collaboration and networking, Natalie. So how to collaborate with other institutes to write a research paper. I mean, maybe you can give some tips about collaboration and networking to our attendees who are researchers.
Yeah, well, first of all, when you publish a paper, make sure after publication that you make it known. For example, we have a tool that's called Shared It, and with Shared It, even if your paper was not published with open access, if you go to the paper itself and if you go to the end of the paper, there is Obtain Shared It link, and if you click there, you get a link that you can copy, and this is a legal way of sharing. It's called Shared It, and I will also include the link when I send these slides. Shared it. And with this link, you can put it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, but now called X. Sorry, I still I still call it Twitter. And for example, in an email, maybe you want to tell people about it. You can share it. Promote your article because people want to know about it, and especially LinkedIn is becoming more and more popular. People are sharing their articles that they publish in journals on LinkedIn, and people are really looking at it, and people are looking at the articles and downloading them. It could well be that you go to a conference. Start talking to people from other countries. Start talking to people from other universities. Check what they are doing. You can also look at journals, at publications. Maybe you see something, as I said before, and maybe you see something that someone has published and say, hey, I'm doing something similar. Maybe we can do something together. Feel free to reach out to people. And it might happen the other way around as well. If they see your article, that they reach out to you and that they want to do something together. So yeah, it's really good to have international collaboration, and not only for you, because of course you can also learn from each other, and you can learn how things are done at other universities or in other countries. But also for your university, it's good to demonstrate international collaborations. Make sure to meet either in person or online. Nowadays, it's easy to meet online as well, and to make sure who is contributing to which part of the manuscript and to which part, not only of the manuscript, maybe you are doing an experiment and you are doing the experiments at the same time, and make sure who is doing what, so that it's clear from the beginning who does what.
Okay. Thanks, Natalie. That's a good tip. And the second question talks about special issues of prominent journals. So I would like to mention here that in the last two trainings that we did talk about collections. At Springer Nature, we call them collections, not special issues. So there is a way where you can find the collections which some journals are launching way in advance, and then you can start following those journals also to know about these collections, and there are all the updates mentioned there. So I strongly recommend maybe you go through those recordings and then you will find a way. Else, go to link.springer.com. On the left hand side, you can segregate and filter your research via collections, and then you can see which are the prominent journals launching what collections, and that's a way. And you can sign up for the alerts of these journals so you get up to date. Right,
Yeah,
Nat?
I would also like to mention that if you go to a journal and you are interested in that journal, if you go to the journal's homepage, if you go to articles, you can also choose collections, and then you see which collections are open for submissions, and you can submit. What we also do is that we, for many journals, we announce open collections on our social media channels. So if you follow us on social media, you will see which collections are open and when the submission deadline is, and you will find the names of the guest editors, the topic of the special issue or the collection, and what they are looking for. And so there's various ways to see which special issues are open and how you can submit or participate.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks. And then the question about how to ask and receive waivers on APC.
I would like to mention that for hybrid journals, we don't have waivers, because for hybrid journals, as I mentioned before, you have the option to publish in the traditional way or with open access. For fully open access journals, there is a section on the journal homepage where it says APC, Article Processing Charge, and if you click there, you can request either a discount or a waiver, and your request will be handled by a specific team who will look at the country where you are from and see if the country has enough funds or not, and depending on the country, they might either give you a discount, a waiver, or no discount or no waiver. But if you can explain that you have no funds, and then they look at it seriously. Some journals also have some extra waivers, and you can also contact a person like me responsible for the journal. We are also mentioned on the websites of the journals, and if we have some extra waivers, then we can also let you know and see if you are eligible for an extra waiver.
Thanks, Natalie. And to add here, in India, we have an initiative. First of all, there are actually 3 initiatives, of which one got stopped like a month ago, but other 2 are still going on. So there are like pool of 64 journals, BMC, fully open access, for which we have a 75% direct discount on APCs. If you need more information, you can send a mail to us, or also it's mentioned on our website. Then, as part of the Nature Research Fund, all the 37, I think 37 Nature Review and original research journals also have full waiver on APCs for India. And there are for some other countries also, but India is also included. So you don't have to pay any APC for Nature research and review journals. But I understand publishing in Nature is difficult, but then we also have a scheme for BMC, but that has 75% discount for some selected 64 journals in fully open access. All right, then Natalie, last question on the slide before I take the live questions on the chat are how to carry independent research. Sorry. Yeah.
Don't something happened. How
Yeah.
to carry out independent
How to-
research work public? I don't understand the question, to be honest.
Okay, maybe I think it's about if they do not have any support from the university, or if then how to carry out without an affiliation, maybe, and about without funding help.
Yeah, you can still publish without an affiliation, because we also publish with companies.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of companies out there in the industry that have R&D departments, research and development departments, where they also do research. Not all companies are allowed to publish because of company secrets, of course, but there are a lot of people working in R&D. For example, in the Glass Journal that I showed earlier, in the Glass Journal, we have people from industry publishing, and they don't have an affiliation, but they put the name of their company there. So it is possible to publish without an affiliation.
Thank you, Natalie. And then, this was all from the summary of the questions we received in advance. Let's move ahead to the live questions, and let me open the chat, the Q&A section. Try to answer some questions on the chat itself, Natalie, but there are questions which I've kept, which needs to be answered live. And let's just do, this. So I'm starting with the first one, which started at 3 or not 2 p.m. when we just started the webinar. It was from Nimish, and he asked asking how to collaborate with pharma companies to write a research article.
if you go to conferences, they will be there, and you can talk with them there.
Yeah.
Um, to be honest, I'm working in applied sciences. We don't work with pharma. If you want to send me an email, I can put you in contact with someone who is specialized in pharma publications, and then they will be able to answer your question. But the first thing that I would say is, for example, if you go to a conference and you see a pharma company, you can, of course, talk to them there. That's why they are at the conference, to make contacts. But my colleague in the field will be able to help you further with this question.
Thanks, Natalie. Then we have another question, but the attendee is not revealed the name. They're saying that as an author, I've submitted a manuscript to one of our journals, Springer Nature, but the experience is a little less positive because the instructions weren't adequate and the editorial team is giving one correction per week. As a author, this back and forth is happening for at least a month, and I feel discouraged by this piecemeal information. So, how may I share my concern as they're doing so, as this is discouraging authors not to pursue?
If you go to the journal homepage of the journal where you submitted, there is a contact page, and please contact the person that is mentioned there and ventilate your question, and they will get back to you and answer you. If these things are happening, we want to know about it. So
Yeah,
please do let us know.
thanks,
Yeah.
Nat.
And I would like to mention before you continue, Alpana, I mentioned that people shouldn't submit to more than one journal at the same time. Of course, if you see, I mean, now we have a complaint of someone about a journal, but if you see, for example, that the review process is in your eyes taking too long, and what you can do is contact either the person like me responsible for the journal, who is mentioned on the website, or the editor-in-chief, and you can ask why the review process is taking so long. And if the answer that you get is not plausible, is not satisfying, what you can do is that you withdraw your manuscript, and once you have withdrawn your manuscript, then you can submit it to another journal.
Yeah, actually, in that
So
case, similar question is raised here as well. It's absolutely same, but not with a Springer Nature journal. But the attendee is asking what should be done in this cases. I think you've explained it well. But one query I have, which we keep receiving also, let's say the author writes to the journal. If the response is not convincing, then maybe they withdraw. But what to do when they don't get a response?
Then they should contact the person like me, responsible for the journal, and then we will answer. We always answer. If
Okay.
we are traveling, it might take a bit longer because we also attend conferences for our job. And then, of course, if we are at a conference and there is a time difference, it might take a bit longer, and maybe we only answer when we are back from the conference, but we always answer. And if there is another person who is not answering, we want to know about it again, because then we can take action. If we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So we want to know about it.
Thanks, Natalie, for being honest here. And I think it's a good suggestion too. Now, another question is why some journal are asking for 3 reviewers' name and contact information from the authors?
Um, well, the pressure to publish has increased the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years. So there are much more publications now. And reviewers are volunteers. Reviewers are full professors, deans, again, same as the editors-in-chief, and they are volunteers. And of course, there are only so many reviewers. So there is, we call it reviewer fatigue. And we don't want to abuse, of course, of our reviewers. And sometimes we ask for suggestions. And what we do normally is that we don't use these suggestions for your paper because there could be a conflict of interest, but we do add them to our database
Okay.
because we want to grow our database.
Okay. All right.
So
Thanks.
that's why this is asked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's another question about do we publish theses and dissertations? Do we publish
Yes.
them?
Yes, we do. We do. And we have a special, I will include it also. We have some information about thesis. We have a book series. where people have to be nominated to get published. The best thesis of a certain year can be published there, but they have to be nominated. There are strict guidelines for this book series. I will include the link to the book series so that you can read what it is about. But sometimes people also have to want to publish part of their thesis in a paper, and we also allow this. They have, of course, to refer to the thesis, and I will send you the guidelines on this. This is allowed. We understand that people want to publish what was in their thesis.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Natalie. An interesting question from Dr. Nandkumar Kamit is asking, many of us writing for interdisciplinary journals struggle with how much disciplinary background to include in the introduction. So what's your advice, Natalie, for balancing clarity without sounding very elementary to the reviewers?
Yeah, here then in the introduction, I would just cover how interdisciplinary it really is. And also in the cover letter, you can mention this. If you don't want to mention everything in the introduction, because then the introduction might become too long, you can also cover an explanation or include an explanation in the cover letter about this. But if it is interdisciplinary research and it is suitable for a broad journal, an interdisciplinary journal, of course, this should be clear from the paper. And if, for example, the paper is only focusing on one thing and not interdisciplinary, then it shouldn't be submitted to an interdisciplinary journal. So make sure that you make clear that the paper that you are submitting is interdisciplinary, and make sure to mention this in the introduction. And if it's too long for the introduction, you can include this also in the cover letter.
Another question from Dr. Kamath is, given India's linguistic diversity, do you see a future where Springer Nature allows dual abstract, English and the regional languages, for wider academic and public engagement?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. We have the same from the Spanish speakers, of course, because Spanish is the second or third language spoken in the world. And yeah, no, we get this question, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Of course, it might change. Don't, but I don't think so. From experience, I don't think so.
Okay, thanks for being honest, Natalie, here. And another question is, in the order of writing, which you showed, Imrad model, Malubika is asking, is the layout applicable for both qualitative and quantitative research? Order of writing.
I will include this as well.
Okay. So Malubika will share the slide deck and your answer will be covered in one of these slides, which Natalie will share with me and I'll share with you all. And then Shalini is asking, Natalie, there are some publishers who ask for abstract first and then they ask for the full paper. So how to go about that?
Yeah, you have to follow the guidelines of the publishing company and the journal. And the guidelines or the instructions for authors can be different from publisher to publisher and from discipline to discipline. And you really have to follow them. And if they ask first for an abstract, then you have to follow the guidelines. Make sure, though, that it is a reputable publisher where you publish. I included the link to Think, Check, Submit. Make sure that you submit to a reputable publisher and a reputable journal, not to a predatory journal. And about the abstracts, you see this for conferences as well. If people are invited to submit a paper for a conference, normally what the conference organizers do is that they first ask for an abstract and then they invite you to submit a full paper.
Yeah. Okay. And for that link that Natalie's saying, I've already mentioned that in the chat also, thinkchecksummit.org. So that's in the chat also. Okay, Ankit Kumar is asking, can you tell me how to write what is the best way to write, mention a reference in a paper?
The references are also mentioned in the instructions for authors. The way to mention them can again be different from publisher to publisher, from discipline to discipline, and from journal to journal. So please, yeah, I cannot emphasize enough. When you submit your paper, do read the instructions for authors or the author guidelines and the aims and scope. Make sure that you follow them, because as I said before, if you use the wrong reference style, your paper can be rejected. Or if you use more pages than what is allowed in the journal, your paper can be rejected, and it's a pity. It's a pity.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, another question moving ahead. Sisak Sharma is asking, there are two parts to it. It's about review. He's asking, can a PhD scholar be a reviewer? And then he's asking if there are any queries they want to know about the status of manuscript, etc. Can we contact through the AI chat box? Is it appropriate that way?
Um,
For review,
First,
can they use AI chat box? I mean, to check on the manuscript?
no.
No.
No, that's what I just mentioned. We want people to review
Okay.
and
And
not AI.
okay. Okay. Shishak, if there's any other leg to your question, maybe you can mention in the questions itself, it will be answered if I'm not understanding your question correctly. But Natalie, the first part is, can a PhD scholar be a reviewer?
That depends on the journal. Some journals allow it, some don't.
Okay.
But of course, we also know that some professors are using their PhD scholars as reviewers. We don't know who, of course, but we know that some professors do that.
Okay.
So, but it really depends on the journal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Natalie. So very interesting question again from Dr. Kamath. I think you covered briefly about it also in your talk. He's saying in India, institutional promotions and research grants still emphasize journal impact factor.
Mhm.
How does Springer Nature advise balancing this metric with the actual research relevance and the readership? What is your
Yeah.
advice to the
Yeah.
audience?
I always say that you can also look at other things and not only the impact factor. And I don't know in India, but there are countries where they don't look at impact factors anymore, but even the quartiles. So if the impact factor is good, but the journal is not in the first quartile, it doesn't count. And
Yeah.
yeah, there are other measures, and of course you have to follow the guidelines of your university or your country. I mean, we cannot change that. But there's other metrics that you can also look at downloads. We also always publish the most downloaded papers on a journal. You can look at the journal. You can look at the editor-in-chief, the editorial board, authors who have published there. Yeah, but of course we cannot change the guidelines of the universities and the countries.
Yeah, right.
We
And
know
you
it's important, and sometimes a journal is in the second quartile, just the first journal in the second quartile, and then it doesn't count for someone. I mean,
yeah,
it's a pity. It's a pity because the journal is good.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And another leg, I think, to the same question he's asking is, for Indian researchers working on regional, applied, or interdisciplinary themes, how should we justify publishing in non-impact factor but high relevance journals when facing an international pressure? So what is the justification we should be giving that we have not published in a high impact, not in a, we have published in a non-impact factor, but it is a relevant journal. So how should we justify it?
Yeah, well, you can justify, for example, if the journal is new, as I mentioned before, a new journal has the right to exist and to grow, but it's like a circle because the journal doesn't have an impact factor, but to obtain papers, people want to have an impact factor. So people will not submit because it doesn't have an impact factor, but if people don't submit, it will never get an impact factor.
Absolutely.
So you can, for example, if there is a new journal and the journal is good, the editorial board is good, and the editor-in-chief is good, you can explain the journal is new, doesn't have an impact factor yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that you can give. And people will understand that because a new journal, it's impossible for a new journal to have an impact factor because you need at least 2 years to be able to calculate it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. All right, moving ahead. I mean, I have a question from an anonymous attendee, not revealing their name. They're asking, I'm very much interested in article reviewing. How can I get review requests from journals? So, how should they get these requests to review articles?
you can write to the editor-in-chief and say that you're interested in reviewing for the journal.
Yeah, and they will review your resume. I think they ask for certain.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
depends on the editor-in-chief whether they will accept it or not. But you can always write to the editor-in-chief and express your interest.
Okay. Thanks, Natalie. Nimish is asking, how many papers a researcher should be reading every day to become a good researcher. Any advice you have for this?
There's more than papers, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really depends. I mean, of course, it's good to read, and if you have time, it's good to read and have a look, for example, at the journal finder, submit an abstract or a title, and then you can already see the most relevant journals for you, not only to submit a paper, but also to read. And if you have time, I cannot say that you have to read a certain amount of papers per day or per week. Of course, doing research is also important, but you can learn from other papers, of course, from research from others, and it's always good to look at international journals to see what they publish and what other researchers are doing. But I cannot say that you should read a minimum amount of papers
Yeah,
per year.
that also depend upon your field of study, how much intensive study your field.
Yeah. I would like to mention, though, then I forgot to mention that during my presentation, if you submit a paper and you really want to increase the visibility of your paper, what you can do is add a video. And for example, let's assume, for example, that you have a paper on a robot and on the gripping movement of a robot. You can include a video, and this really enhances the visibility of your paper. That might increase the visibility, the downloads, and maybe even the citations.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Thanks, Natalie. Another question from Sindhuja is, are there any APC waivers or discount option that Springer Nature provides to scholars? Does Springer Nature have any collaboration regarding APC waivers with the University of Delhi? Thanks, Sindhuja. So, I mean, with the University of Delhi, we're already in talks for a fully open access agreement. Let's say how it materializes. Springer Nature has many tools like this. For one is fully open access agreement, wherein the author doesn't have to pay anything. Apart from that, I did talk about some BMC journal waivers and the Nature Research Fund waivers. So this is what is going on at the moment. And if we happen to get into an agreement with Delhi University, you will get to know about it. And Dr. Kamath is asking another question. Would you advise experienced researcher with strong data sets to target journals with longer review times for impact, or prioritize faster publication for visibility and citations? I mean, Natalie, what would be your advice, an experienced publication professional, publishing professional? So he's asking your advice. So experienced researchers, I think, has already published many papers.
Yeah. Well, if you already published and you don't need a certain amount of papers per year, just look for the best journal.
Yeah,
The best journal that fits your needs
an impact.
and that helps you to get impact in the field. So of course, and fast publication is nice, but how is the review process done if there is a fast publication? I think an in-depth review is also very important, and a good review for your paper. So I think, as I explained at the beginning, it's important that you look at the most appropriate journal for your research and for your impact in the field. And this can be a journal with maybe a lower impact factor and a long review time, or it could be a journal with a shorter review time and a high impact factor. It really depends, but look for your impact, and the journal finder that we discussed can be of help.
Yeah.
With finding the most appropriate journal for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. So another question moving on, again, anonymous attendee, but I think the concern is a little grave here. They're asking for help as to, they're not receiving any response from the journal. And it's not a Springer Nature journal. They have clarified on the chat, but they have contacted the journal, written them a number of emails, but they are not really getting any response. The only status showing is contacting potential reviewers. So what should be done? Because they are saying that they are at that stage that publication of this manuscript is critical for their career. So what is the best advice in this case?
Have a look at Think, Check, Submit, and look if it was not a predatory journal where you submitted your paper, first of all. If it's not, if it's with a reputable publisher, try to find another contact on the homepage of the company and try to contact them then through that email address. If the editor-in-chief or the a publisher like me is not answering. But yeah, for predatory publishers, it happens often that there are no contact details at all. And so I hope you didn't submit to a predatory journal, because of course that would be a pity.
Yeah.
And I wish you good luck, and I hope they answer you and that you will find contact details.
Thanks, Natalie. And Dr. Prabhat is asking, and it is addressed to you, that do Springer journals, it says usage schedules to identify the subject and keywords of any article. I'm not sure
Can
if
you repeat the question? It's not clear to me.
it says, do Springer journals usage schedules to identify the subject and keywords of any article? Dr. Prabhat, this, I'm not very clear what you want to ask. Maybe can you just again specify? Are you asking about subject and keyword? Do we ask the authors about keywords? Maybe you can.
Yeah, we ask authors for keywords, and here I would like to give another personal tip, if I may. For example, talking again about robotics. Robotics is very broad. If you use robotics as keyword, it's really broad. But if you are publishing something about social robotics, then add social. Make keywords that consist of more than one word, because this will really help to find your paper. So, for example, here in this case, social robotics, or if we talk about mechanics, solid mechanics, fracture mechanics, computational mechanics, fluid mechanics, fracture mechanics. So mechanics is really broad. What kind of mechanics is it? Make it a word that consists of more than one word, because that will really help
Yeah.
people to find your paper, and you want your paper to be found.
Yeah. And on that note, maybe I can also inform all attendees the second webinar, which I posted the recording also, a dedicated time was spent on how to generate nice keywords. And there were some slides also. And I also showed them live how you can use those keywords using operators and synonyms and what more you can do. So there are certain examples also in that recording if you want to have a look. Then there's a question, Natalie, moving on, how to write a research paper for a new innovation or theorem of mathematics. How to write a research paper for an innovation or a theorem of
Yeah.
mathematics.
To be honest, we only want papers on innovations.
Yeah.
We want on innovative ideas. As I mentioned before, people don't want to read what has been published before. So if you have something new, if you have something innovative, do include it in your paper. That's what people want to read, and emphasize on it. I think this answers the question, but if not, let me know.
Another question says, sometime paper appears in Scopus journals, but Scopus ID doesn't get created. I'm not sure if we can answer this question. How does this?
This sometimes happens. If this happens, reach out to us and we will contact them.
Yeah.
Our papers are sent automatically to Scopus. This is all automated. There's no persons involved, but sometimes it does happen that a paper is left out. We don't know why. If this happens and you see that this happens, let us know and we will make sure that it's included.
Okay. So Maya is asking, can you please mention any of the reputed journals which have no publication fees? I am in need of sociology or social science journals. So Maya, I suggest you can write an email to me separately and I can guide you offline on this, how to locate the right journals using Finder and using, the journals which are not asking for any fees. So because in the scope of this talk, it will be difficult to tell you the journals. Okay, then we have a question about, and this is like a concern. Why do we see that some papers, and Natalie says that when get published only because authors and editors know each other? How is it ethical when papers get to the review stage only because of this author-editor connection? So I think, they've not revealed their name,
What
but
do
they
you
must
mean
have
with
had a
author?
bad experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean with author-editor connection, but if I would like to make sure that for the majority of our journals, at least for my journals, the editors-in-chief, if there is this is for all. If there is a conflict of interest between an editor-in-chief and an author, the editor-in-chief will always assign another handling editor to do the review process. So the editor-in-chief is then not in charge of the review process. And many of our journals, and this then has nothing to do with the conflict of interest, but many of our journals have handling editors. So the editor-in-chief looks who will handle the manuscript, and then this handling editor will handle the whole review process. This handling editor will assign reviewers. And this way, they also make sure that there is no conflict of interest between people.
Yeah.
And for example, if it can also be that an editor-in-chief submits a paper himself every now and then, that's also possible. But then as well, the whole review process is handled by someone else. Someone from the editorial board is assigned, and this person then handles the whole review process.
Okay.
So even if you see that people know each other, this doesn't mean that the handling process, the whole review process is handled by the persons that know each other.
Okay. Thanks, Nanjali. So then there's a question from Than Michon Munau. I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Is asking, kindly share the publication charges of this journal. So please know that every journal have their different publication charges, APCs, and APCs are charged only for the open access publication, not for behind the paywall or subscription mode. So it depends upon journal to journal. When you go to the page, there you will find all this information of the journal. There's a question from Dr. Kamath asking, as someone who hasn't published in Springer Nature journals yet, could you suggest what makes a submission stand out positively from the editorial desk beyond the usual technical completeness?
Yeah, well, for example, if you have a cover letter, don't say dear editor or dear editor-in-chief. The editor-in-chief is a name. Make it more personal. The name of the editor-in-chief is mentioned on the homepage of the journal. So if the name of the editor-in-chief is, let's say, Jacobs, dear Mr. or Mrs. Jacobs, or dear Professor Jacobs, if he or she is a professor, or dear Dr. Jacobs. Make it more personal. Dear editor-in-chief, that could be anybody. And that already helps, and make sure there are no spelling mistakes, or that you make sure that you are covering what's covered by the journal in your paper. Make sure that you read the aims and scope. Make sure that you demonstrate that you have read the aims and scope, that you know what the journal is about, and make sure that what you are publishing, of course, is new.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. So there's a question, how can we know the authenticity of the article on ONOS? So they've not revealed their name. So I would like to mention that on ONOS, only 30 publishers' articles are hosted, journals are hosted. So if you want to know the authenticity, if you're on the article, just look for the publisher name, because there's a filter to also filter via the publishers. And the name of those 30 reputed publishers in the science and HSS area are also listed there. So hence you will come to know the authenticity of the article which is hosted on ONOS. And then Natalie, we have a question on, please throw more light on how to avoid cheating publishers, their fees, submission, etc. So you talked
Use think, check, submit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you receive these emails, sometimes you receive emails. I even receive them. I'm not an author. I work at a publishing company, but I also receive them. Sometimes you receive these emails. Submit to our journal. Impact factor 10.2. Well, how many journals are there with an impact factor 10.2?
Yeah, absolutely.
And highlights and all kind of colors. And if you get something like that, don't submit, I would say. And this is already an alarm. This is already a bell should be ringing then that there's something is not correct.
Absolutely. Buhar Singh is asking, does Springer provide access to download data set for computer science field?
I have to look into that.
Okay. So maybe we'll get back to you, Mr. Singh.
Yeah.
Mir Kaisar is saying, I have a query regarding the timeline while submitting the manuscripts. And I think this is a question, Natalie, we've received in other workshops also. Most of the journals take too much time while processing the manuscript from submission to acceptance. What hurts the most is, after wasting the time, they reject the papers without any solid reasons. So there should be some check on it, and hope my question is heard and answered accordingly.
Yeah, that sometimes happens. Luckily, not for all journals. It sometimes happens that the paper is maybe rejected after 8 months. Yeah, that is a pity, but sometimes the review process takes that long. But if the review is not solid, if there isn't, yeah, if there is not a, if the reason for rejection is not after such a long time, is not explained well, then do get back to the journal editor and ask them, why was it rejected? It's not clear to me. What can I do to improve, or what would you recommend me? Explain why it was rejected.
Yeah.
If there is a rejection, there should always be a clear reason for a rejection. And
Yeah.
I would like to mention that we also have desk rejections. If we see that a paper is out of scope, for
Yeah.
example, the paper is rejected right away because and then we're not going to review it.
Yeah.
But if after 8 or 12 or 15 months a paper is rejected, yeah, we have to look, that should be a reason.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. And there's someone asking about how to seek permissions and on what areas we should be seeking permissions from the house, publishing house. Can you please reiterate? And I'll apologize for a moment. I'll be just back. Somebody's on the door. You just answer this question and I'll be back, Natalie.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I included in one of my slides, and the slides will be shared with you, that if you have a publication from Springer, Elsevier, or any other publisher, there is clear guidance on how to request permission. And you go to the paper itself, then you see rights and permissions, you click on rights and permissions, and then you get to rights link. There you see the paper in question where you want to use something from or request permission. You see the publisher, when it was published, and who owns the copyright. And then they say what you want to do. You have a selection, you make a selection of what you want to do, and you submit. And then they get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. And in the majority of the cases, the permission is free.
Which is good to know because that
Yeah.
question also keeps coming a lot. Thank you,
Yeah.
Natalie. Now, Dr. Gajanan Uttam Patil asking, after rejection of paper, journal recommendation is faithful? I mean, he's asking, most people says it is not. Is it correct? The recommendations given by the journals.
I think you refer to the transfer desk. We have a so-called transfer desk, and if we see that a paper is not suitable for one journal, but could be suitable, but the quality of the paper is good, the research is good, then we suggest other journals. And if this suggestion is not suitable, then please do let us know. But we have experienced people working on the transfer desk, people with PhDs in the topics. So yeah, these people should know what journal to suggest when a paper is rejected from one journal, and yeah, it's then suggested to another. We are only trying to help you, so that you don't have to look for another journal yourself again. So we are suggesting maybe this is an option, and if you agree, we will submit it on your behalf, and the paper is automatically transferred. That is why we call it a transfer desk. We are only trying to help you to find the most suitable journal for your paper.
Thanks, Natalie. And it's already 5:30, and we are reached at the stipulated time which we had for this talk. But I'm extending it only for 5 to 7 minutes because there are some questions left. But it is an open, information to all the attendees here. If you want to leave the chat, please leave the webinar. You are free to leave it because I understand we've kept you from 3 to 5:30. It's already been 2.5 hours. We will share a recorded version of it, and you will get a recording. But if you want to stay on the call, since we'll be answering some more questions for another 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll wind up the session.
Yeah, I really have only 5 minutes left because I have another meeting. I'm
Okay, okay.
sorry.
So just 5 minutes, Natalie. So there's one question by Mohammed Tanseem saying, can we publish negative result?
Some journals do publish negative results, yeah, but check the journal. And not all journals accept them, but there are journals that are accepting negative results because people can also learn from negative results. So do check the journal.
Okay. And this important question which I want to ask here is, Tali Willi Momin is asking, so let's say one of the paper is published in a journal and that does not have a peer review. Now I want to publish it in another journal, but then it shows plagiarism. So how can I deal with this issue?
Yeah, you cannot publish things twice. You have to publish a new paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the new paper would not show plagiarism with an existing published content? when
You have to publish a new paper. You cannot publish things twice.
Okay,
So
yeah,
it should be, the content should be completely new. It's
yeah,
not allowed to publish a paper twice.
okay. All
And
right.
that's why we are giving these kind of workshops to show what you should take into account when you submit to a journal.
Yeah. All right. What is the relevance in which one to choose, single blind versus double blind, and why is this option kept for some journals? Why is, I mean,
Yeah, all journals have their own policies, and some journals have single blind, otherwise have double blind, others have double blind, and we have journals that are doing experiments now with open review. So it really depends on the journal and yeah, and on sometimes on the field as well. But I cannot give a clear reason. I've got a lot of journals that have single blind, but I have some of them with double blind. It really depends on the journal, on the field. And as I said, we are doing experiments with some journals with open review, where people can comment.
okay, okay. And Ankita is asking, as an Indian author, the crisp writing is difficult and it makes a huge difference for publication in a high impact reputed journal. Yes, journal provides the writing services, but they are paid. So how can we write better aiming a reputed journal?
It's not only for Indians, it's also for me. I'm Dutch. And for people in other countries. You might have met someone at a conference who is a native speaker, and you can ask this person to help you. I mean, this person will be happy to help you, and you can, as I mentioned in the session, you can thank the person in the acknowledgement section. The person will be happy that he or she is thanked, and maybe if this person is, for example, from the UK, maybe you go to a conference in the UK next time, and or maybe this person is coming to India to a conference in your city at your university, and then maybe you can do something for that person. Maybe help him to find a restaurant for a meeting, or help him to find a good hotel. You can help each other. And feel free to ask people that you have met or that you know, and people are always happy to help.
Last question for the day. Can you tell me how to use a bibliometric analysis in a journal?
That also depends on the journal. Here I would say do read the instructions for authors or the guidelines and follow these instructions. Yeah, because you have to follow the style of the journal.
Okay. All right, so I think we have to close the Q&A section now. Those there are some questions which are left unanswered, and I understand. What I'll do is I'll collate them and see that if they are falling in something which you have answered already. Else, we will try to get some answers for you and then share with the attendees. So let me just wind up the session now. I want to, as a last note, also tell you that we will be doing these kind of webinars throughout the year. A calendar has already been planned till December. So the next webinar will be on 12th of June, and it will be about understanding research metrics. We heard questions about how to go beyond research metrics. That is truly understandable, but I guess we also have to have an understanding of these metrics. So we have a speaker from New York, Ms. Sonal Shuklash, and she is the head of abstracting and indexing. So she will talk about H-index, the basic index, but she'll also talk about the Scopus indexing, Web of Science, quartiles, site score, Shimago, all of that. And if you wish, look out for an email from us with the link, etc. It will happen on 12th of June, a little later in the evening, because to match the New York timings. Then we have session dedicated platform training on July and August. And then September, October is still in the planning phase. You understand how it is. So thank you so very much for your continuing participation. We request all the librarians to keep promoting our sessions within your university. Please follow us on our social handles. We have a dedicated page for YouTube for Springer Nature in India, where I have spoken to our communication director. She'll be posting all the recordings in there. So you will have everything in one link. Please follow us on the Facebook and Instagram page also. On LinkedIn, we keep posting about our webinars. You can also register register for these webinars via LinkedIn as well. And as I mentioned, the link to watch recording, and there were many questions in the chat about recording, PPT, and the links. I understand many of you were not able to copy the links from the chat. So I will make sure that when Natalie sends it, I will consolidate it in one deck and include all the links in 2 slides together. And then we'll try to post a link in the recording email in one go, so that you don't have to look for multiple emails from our side. Certificates might take a little time because the number of audience is too many. And please note that please do not send me emails about certificate. They will be sent to you. Nobody of you will be really left out without a certificate. And also the name will be this exactly same what you mentioned while registering for the webinar. We do not manually change anything. Now, when you are closing it, my humble request to please fill the feedback form, how you felt about this webinar. We'll be very happy to receive feedback from you. Thank you so much. And Natalie, cannot thank you enough. Thank you, and super thank you. Have a good rest of your day and a nice
It was
weekend.
a pleasure. It was a pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
And I'm sorry I
Thank
was not able to take live questions. You understand we didn't have time, but we will do again such type of session in the third quarter, and then we will try to do it in a way where we see more questions and lesser of the presentation. So thank you very much, and stay posted with our post, etc. Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Natalie.